Warner Brothers has been known to fumble at its most crucial moments of crisis, but its latest stunt may cost James Gunn his entire DC universe. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. In the past couple of years, Warner Brothers has made more changes in its internal structure and hierarchy than a studio does in a whole lifetime. The shifting wind at Hollywood has made the Centennial production house seem like a flailing fish out of water. And yet, the executives and creative heads at WB hold out hope for a new era with the dawn of James Gunn's DC Studios. However nascent it may be, DC has always been a reliable and profitable market for the movie industry. Ever since Christopher Reeve's Superman and Michael Keaton's Batman, the CBM universe has received a fresh lease on imaginative storytelling, with Marvel's Infinity Saga success only solidifying the foundation of that belief. But as new information comes to light, it seems as though Warner Brothers may not be safe, after all. For a studio as old and experienced as Warner Brothers, it sure has taken some monumentally stupid risks in the past half a decade. Fiasco after fiasco has lined the halls of the WB headquarters, and yet, the studio seems none too aware of how to get things under control without aggravating the situation even further. What began as a simple case of creative difference with Zack Snyder's DC Extended Universe and the Justice League trilogy soon snowballed into a flurry of career-ending scandals for its cast members. Before WB could stuff a cork at the bottom of its leaky barrel, a $43 billion merger led to a complete upheaval at the WB offices with hundreds upon hundreds of employees axed. For a studio as old and experienced as Warner Brothers, it sure has taken some monumentally stupid risks in the past half a decade. Fiasco after fiasco has lined the halls of the WB headquarters, and yet, the studio seems none too aware of how to get things under control without aggravating the situation even further. What began as a simple case of creative difference with Zack Snyder's DC Extended Universe and the Justice League trilogy soon snowballed into a flurry of career-ending scandals for its cast members. Before WB could stuff a cork at the bottom of its leaky barrel, a $43 billion merger led to a complete upheaval at the WB offices with hundreds upon hundreds of employees axed. Among troubled waters, the new boss David Zaslav installed James Gunn at the helm of a newly formed DC Studios with the task of forming a 10-year interconnected universe. But just as things began to settle, marquee director Christopher Nolan cut his 20-year tie with the studio for violating his creative masterpiece Oppenheimer and releasing it on WB's streaming platform at the same time as it hit the theaters. Now, WB seems to have committed yet another massive blunder with its only remaining symbol of hope, James Gunn and his DC Studios forerunner, Superman. As James Gunn's nascent universe inches closer to its launch date, Warner Brothers might just put everything at risk for the newly formed DCU. In one of the stupidest industry decisions ever, WB pushed out two of its senior-most members due to the poor performance of the studio over the past year. One of those members happens to be marketing chief Josh Goldston, the genius behind the marketing of the highest-grossing movie in WB history, Barbie. The $1.4 billion film helmed by Margot Robbie had served as a source of redemption for the studio. But films like The Flash and Joker, folie à deux nullified the optimism that Barbie had managed to raise in David Zaslav. The answer to WB's fiscal problems could have been found in any of its obscure corners, but firing the marketing genius who was responsible for saving WB's legacy was not one. More shocking still, Goldston was responsible for the marketing campaign behind James Gunn's Superman, as well as two of WB's biggest upcoming properties, Minecraft and F1. The co-chiefs of DC Studios, Gunn and Peter Safran, were not made aware of Goldston's firing until it was already too late. When asked about it, Safran claimed, "It was a decision that Mike and Pam felt was for the best." While the heads at DC may remain cryptic as ever, the fans are left to wonder how damaging the implications of Goldston's firing may be on the future of the DC universe. Dwayne Johnson didn't agree with James Gunn's decision to cancel any further Black Adam films, suggesting that it was a bad financial move. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam received a mixed reception at the theaters, and reports strongly suggested that the film failed to break even at the box office. But that's not how Johnson viewed the reception of the film. Black Adam was the biggest opening of his entire career, and it baffled the Fast and Furious actor that DC decided to discontinue his story after one film. Johnson claimed that James Gunn's decision to cut short the reign of the Kondak anti-hero wasn't financially well informed. He shared that even business people and Wall Street questioned the move. He shared that the film had great numbers despite COVID-related challenges. Black Adam was not a cheap film to make, considering that sources mentioned its budget anywhere between $190 million and $260 million. According to Box Office Mojo, the film grossed $393 million at the worldwide box office. Reports suggested that the film failed to break even despite the decent box office collection post-COVID, via THR. Dwayne Johnson earlier shared that Black Adam was a once-in-a-career character and that he gave his best to the film, via Total Film. When Black Adam 2 didn't take off, Johnson blamed it on the new leadership under James Gunn. Johnson appeared on Kevin Hart's Heart to Heart talk show and discussed the biggest mystery of discontinuing Black Adam. Johnson shared, "Anytime you have a company, but especially that size and magnitude, that's a publicly traded company, and you have all those changes in leadership. You have people coming in who creatively, fiscally are going to make decisions that you may not agree with philosophically." Johnson shared that it was baffling for him because he believed he did everything right for the film. He shared that it wasn't just he and Hart who found the cancellation to be shocking. He shared that even Wall Street was mystified by the decision. He shared, "That will always be one of the biggest mysteries, I think, not only for me and us on our end, but also throughout our business. Because that's a Kevin question. But that was a question out of Wall Street. That was a question out of Hollywood. That was a question like, wait a second. You had the biggest opening of your career. You're establishing a new superhero. You want to grow out the franchise. You bring back Superman and Henry Cavill. The world went crazy." Johnson also shared that Black Adam created a diverse superhero portfolio, suggesting the introduction of Justice Society of America in the film. Johnson shared that they had men and women of color in the film playing these roles. Dwayne Johnson further shared with Kevin Hart that he and Hart always thought of the audience first as business-minded people. He shared that the viewers were their first boss and they focused on creating things that are fresh. He shared that when people come in at the top and disregard this one thing, they wouldn't be able to agree with them. However, Johnson shared that they had to eventually go along with these top-tier people on such decisions. He used the perfect NFL analogy to explain the circumstance. Johnson shared, "It's like new ownership coming in, buying an NFL team and going, all right, not my head coach, not my quarterback. Doesn't matter how many times you won a Super Bowl, doesn't matter how many rings we got, I'm going with somebody else." It wasn't just a second Black Adam film that eventually got kicked off the DCU roster. The entire universe was scrapped and replaced with a new DCU, with Gunn starting over with every single character. Amidst the Batman Part 2's progress, James Gunn clears the air surrounding DCU's Batman feature. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Since announcing the DCU slate last year, James Gunn has been pretty vocal about prioritizing stories over everything else. Being a writer-director himself, the Peacemaker showrunner has continued to stress the importance of storytelling in the medium, which many CBM releases have been undermining in recent years. Similar is the case with DCU's Batman.